Good morning. It's Sunday morning, September 24th, 2023, and this is a very special tribute edition of Dinner from the Dining Car. Late in August, my wife and I lost her brother-in-law, Jim Bickley. He was one of the most damn decent men you'll ever meet. He was kind, he was caring. All of his patients loved him. The family loved him. He had a wonderful sense of humor. But I don't want to go into that because it'll just make me laugh and cry more. Anyway, at his funeral last week, my grandson Jake, who you've all seen before, he's done some camera work for me before, said to me, "You know, Grandpa, you haven't done a Dinner from the Dining Car in a while." I said, "No, Jake, you're right. I haven't. It's been a while." He said, "Why don't you do a tribute episode to Poppy?" That's what Jake called Jim. He called me Grandpa. Jim was Poppy. And so I said, "Yeah, I'm going to do that." But I didn't know what to make. And I thought about it. No. Jim loved good food. He also loved baking goods. He also loved anything baked. But he absolutely adored my carrot cake. The first time I brought it over to Belinda's and Jim's for a dinner as a dessert, I set it down on the counter and he asked me, "What's that?" I said, "It's carrot cake." He ate 3 slices before dinner. And the last couple of Christmases, I've been giving him a carrot cake all on his own. So, I know he loved my carrot cake. So that's what I'm making. Now, this carrot cake has a history in my family. This recipe has been in my family unaltered except for one thing since 1792. I know if my brother and sister see this video, I'm probably going to get in trouble for sharing it because it's supposed to be a family secret. But Jim loved it so much, and as a tribute, I'm going to make one for him. And so that's today's plan. Here's what you're going to need for the carrot cake. This carrot cake, a little more history. This carrot cake won, I can't remember, it's 5 straight or 7 straight blue ribbons at the Los Angeles County Fair in the cake division. It won so many ribbons, my mother was asked nicely not to enter again because it ran away with the competition every time. And if you make this and taste it, you might understand why. This is a unique carrot cake. You know, most of the carrot cakes you get are smothered with this sicky sweet cream cheese frosting. This one does not use a sicky sweet cream cheese frosting. This uses a buttermilk glaze, and trust me, it's off the charts. So, back to business. This is what you're going to need for the carrot cake. First thing you're going to need, of course, flour. You're going to need 3 cups sifted. You're going to need 2 cups, oh my goodness, sugar. Just plain granulated sugar. Excuse me just a second. Want to make sure I'm reading this properly because I don't want you guys to screw it up. You're going to need no sugar added applesauce. Now, this may be a little difficult to find. It may be labeled sugar-free. It may be labeled, no sugar added. What you need to do is check the ingredients label on the back. I don't know if you can see it that well, but it should contain 3 ingredients: apples, water, and a little vitamin C. That's it. So this is what you want to use for this recipe because It's going to have enough sugar in it already. You're going to need 4 eggs, 4 large eggs. You're going to need baking soda, baking powder. You're going to need ground cinnamon. Oh, I see one thing I forgot to get. 2 things I forgot to get. Excuse me a second. Oh, where's my head this morning? You can tell it's early in the morning. My head's not all here. One thing you are going to need in order to make this a carrot cake is carrots. You're going to peel these and grind them. Hopefully you have a food processor. If not, you're going to have to do it by hand, which is a snot. You're going to need 3 cups. Now, do not, under any circumstances, buy the pre-shredded carrots, because they are usually very old and they're dry, and they simply do not cook in this recipe properly. Use fresh. You're also going to need about a half a cup of chopped walnuts. That will go in the cake. For the glaze, you're going to need more sugar, about a cup. Where's my head? I'll get that out of the way. You're going to need, again, baking soda. You're going to need vanilla. You're also going to need margarine, about a half a cup. And the most important thing, half a cup of buttermilk. Now I'm using low-fat buttermilk. You can use regular buttermilk. It doesn't make much of a difference in this glaze. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to make the cake first, and when it's done and out and cooling, then we'll make the glaze. One final note. You need to use either a tube pan, you know, that round tin pan with the center section that pops out, or preferably a bundt cake pan. They come out absolutely beautiful in a bundt cake pan. So, and you have to really, really, really grease that pan, because if you don't, this cake will stick. And we don't want that. So grease the living snot out of it. Do not use cooking spray, that won't grease it enough. You're going to need to use something like Crisco or some other stuff. Something like Crisco. Just make sure that pan's well greased, and you're going to sprinkle a little flour in it before you pour the batter in. So that's everything you need for the recipe. I'm going to kill this in a second, and then we'll get everything out. We'll get the carrots cut up, we'll get the flour measured and sifted in a bowl, and we'll get everything else ready, and then we'll start working. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Okay folks, we're ready to get started. We have our 3 cups of carrots, fresh carrots, shredded. We have 3 cups all-purpose flour, sifted, in a separate bowl. In the main bowl, we need to add, and where are my measuring cups? There are my measuring cups. We're going to need 2 cups of the no sugar added applesauce. Whoa, that's a little too much. Too much at one time. There, now that'll take care of the overflow. 2 cups of applesauce. To that, you're going to add your sugar, and that is 2 cups of that. Excuse me, measuring spoons, I don't want you right now. Sugar. Okay, I don't trust myself doing this, but sometimes you gotta take risks. 2 cups of sugar. Now what you need to do, leave this out because you're going to need it for the glaze later. What you need to do is get your handy dandy hand mixer. Whoa. Turn it on a low speed. Hopefully there, now they're locked in. You start whipping this around. Until it's well mixed, and it'll start to turn a little creamy in the color. To that, you're going to add 4 eggs, one at a time. A little bit of eggshell out of there. Don't want eggshells in our two. And we're going to beat them a bit between each egg just to kind of get it all mixed in there well. Oh, by the way, you're going to make a bit of a mess, so you'll have some cleanup to do after this. And 4. And I'm kind of splashing this stuff all over the place. Okay. Once those are beaten up, you need to grab your dry ingredients. I need to pick up some egg here. Oh, what a mess. I made a huge mess. By the way, we also have our butt pan greased and floured. The oven is preheating to 350 degrees. Okay. I don't care that I slopped it all over the recipe. This is on my computer. I can reprint it anytime I want. All right. You're going to need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That goes in with the dry ingredients. Teaspoons of baking powder. 1.5 teaspoons. That's the oven going off saying it's heated. 1 teaspoon and a half of baking soda. 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. 1, 2. That's all your dry ingredients. Now you're going to grab a fork or a spoon. Can't use this spoon, it's wet. Have you folks ever had one of those mornings? And then you're just going to basically mix all these dry ingredients together in the dry ingredient bowl. Oh boy, that cinnamon's good cinnamon. Okay. Set that aside for a minute. Reach over here and grab half a cup. Tear here my foot. I'm going to grab half a cup of walnuts. These are lovely looking walnuts. Half a cup of walnuts. If you like walnuts, you can go a little more. If you don't like walnuts, you don't even have to put them in. They're more or less a nice crunchiness to them. Okay. Now, you have to take your dry ingredients and slowly add it to the wet ingredients while you're mix that all up good. Judy gets up and sees this, she's not going to be happy. I'm making a huge mess in here. I gotta stand up. Now that that's mixed, you grab your carrots. Get that in here too. Hold on. I'll make sure I get all of these carrots. Don't you even think about it. Oh, I hope I didn't get flour in my coffee. And you just stir it. Stir it, stir it. Hope you can see that hole better now. So these carrots are really well mixed in. And the dry ingredients and wet ingredients are very well mixed together. Okay, now I need a few minutes here because I have to take that walnuts, and there's something I forgot to do. Where did the cleaning lady put mine? There it is. Don't walk in front of the shot, Tony. Now, if you've got a meat tenderizer, use it. I cheated. I went to a local auto parts store and I got an auto body mallet. You're going to put those walnuts in a Ziploc bag. And you're just going to pound them up. So when they're done, they look a little more like this. See how nice and chopped up they are? Okay, now you're going to add that to this. And you're going to stir it around again. The walnuts add a really nice bit of crunch and quite a bit of flavor. But like I said, if you don't like walnuts, if you despise walnuts, don't add them. Pure and simple. Okay. That's pretty well stirred up. Excuse me a minute while I rinse these. Oh, heck with rinsing them. I don't like to leave too big of a mess. You married guys, you'll be shaking your heads yes, because you know exactly where I'm coming from. You don't want your wife to come in and see this huge freaking mess in your kitchen. She will get very, very upset. And you will pay for it. Okay. That's it for the cake batter. Now, if you really like walnuts, we're going to pour it in the pan here. If you really like walnuts, you can take a few walnuts and put them at the bottom of the pan, because when you serve this thing, you're going to flip it over. So it's the walnuts you put in the pan will be perfecto. All right, spatula. Spatula. There it is. Cake spatula. A rubber spatula. Just lift this up, making sure you don't pour it all over the floor like I have done in the past. Just pour this bad boy into the bundt pan. Scrape as much as you want out of there. This will rise a little bit while it's cooking because of the baking soda and baking powder, but surprisingly not that much. It won't, completely overflow the bundt pan. Now I've made this in a tube pan, and it just doesn't come out as well in a tube pan as it does in a bundt pan. I don't know why. Anyway, there it is, ready to go in the oven. Oh, that is so good. Bad Tony, bad Tony. Okay. Oven's preheated to 350. This will cook for at least an hour. Come back in an hour. There she is. Come back in an hour, and then using long toothpicks, just poke it, or a very sharp, thin steak knife, and poke it to make sure it's done. It may take as much as an hour and a half, but surprisingly, usually it's done in about the hour. So, in the oven we go. Wow, that's hot. Okay. Well, that's it for making the carrot cake. When it comes out, We'll let it cool, and while it's cooling, we'll start making the buttermilk glaze, and you guys can see what that's going to be like. Trust me, this cake just isn't the same without the buttermilk glaze. It's just, the buttermilk glaze just kills on this recipe. So, like I said, we'll see you in about an hour. And meanwhile, I'm going to clean up some of this mess before my wife gets up and comes in here and sees it. And we'll be back when the cake comes out and we're ready to make the glaze. Okay, folks, here we go. The cake is out and it's cooled off. Took a while, but it's ready. And it's, oh, if you could smell what's going on in here, it's crazy. Alright, now we're going to make the glaze. Basically, you combine all the ingredients. Cup of sugar into a saucepan, 2-quart saucepan. That's it for the sugar. A 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Yeah. 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. A teaspoon of vanilla. A little more, a little less isn't going to kill it. Half a cup of the buttermilk. I would suggest you shake the thing before you pour it, because buttermilk will separate. And a half a cup. That's a 1/4 of a cup. Half a cup of margarine. Whoops. And you bring that to heat. Now what you're going to want to do, get a spatula and whip this around so it doesn't. You're going to need to stir this pretty much constantly, guys, because you've got to bring it to a boil. I should move that camera over here so you can see this better. Just a second to move this where it shows it better. There we go. That's better. And the margarine's just got to melt, so you have to stir this pretty much continuously. And you bring it to a boil, and it has to boil for 5 minutes. It has to boil for 5 minutes. Got a weird message on my camera there. That bothers me. So you want to stir it constantly so it doesn't burn. And so that butter melts. That margarine melts. I haven't tried making this with actual butter. I imagine, it's bad enough for you already I imagine with butter it would be just, you know, death glaze. But it'll start to foam a little bit. And you just bring it to a boil. It'll start to thicken up a little bit, and it'll start to caramelize that sugar and turn it nice and brown. Want to make sure all the lumps of margarine are out of there. Actually, I should be using a whisk for this, but I don't feel like it. Stir and stir and stir. That way it doesn't burn to the bottom of the pan with all that sugar in it. Now once this boils, you let it soft boil for about 5 minutes. Then we'll take it over to the cake and slobber it all over the cake so you can see it. Oh, that cake is perfect. There. We're starting to get a nice boil. Okay, then turn it down because it's starting to overflow. Whoops. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Shit. Oh, crap. We got overflow. I was afraid of that. Minor little emergency here. I hate minor little emergencies. Wipe this up before it gets icky. We moved it over to another burner because I gotta clean this burner now. Adjust the camera. Oh, that's nice. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's starting to turn a nice caramel brown. That means the sugar's pretty much caramelized. So it doesn't thicken up much. It's kind of a runny glaze, so it's a beautiful caramel color. If you'll see, that's when you know it's done, when you get that beautiful brown caramel color. Okay, so that's done. thankfully. Now you come over here to the cake. Now you notice the cake has some white spots on the top. That's the flour from the bundt pan. It's not going to damage anything. In fact, when you pour this glaze on, that's pretty much going to take care of that. Pour the glaze onto. I'm not having any luck. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to use a ladle. Ladle it on. That way we don't splash it all over the darn table. Now you can use as little or as much of this glaze as you'd like. I use a lot of it. It's going to seep into the cake. It'll be delicious. And completely not good for you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's the carrot cake that Jim loves so very much. You just have to wait for that glaze to cool and it'll solidify a little bit. I don't know if you can see it, but it is steaming. So that's it for this video. I want to thank you for watching. If you want a copy of this recipe, email me at dinnerfromthediningcar@yahoo.com. If you don't want one, well, I won't be that offended. But thank you, and please say a little prayer for Dr. James Braxton Bickley, and keep this in mind, that if Jim didn't make it through the pearly gates, the rest of us don't stand much of a chance. So have yourselves a good afternoon, and we'll see you next time we see you. Bye-bye.